Welcome to the Dice Gods. My name is Hydra, and in this, the technically third of this series of videos, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Shock Army of Acontecimento. If you haven't been keeping up to date with all the goings on around this, I, a little while back, decided that what I really needed to do with the update that reintroduced certain removed armies into N5 is that what I needed to do is re-buy an army that I've owned multiple times, sold multiple times, but was in fact my first love for Infinity. That was the Shock Army of Acontecimento, a sectorial army for Pan-Oceania. Now, it's not been in production for a very long period of time, so I envisaged that tracking those down would be a challenge. But it turned out that thanks to a lot of viewers of this channel that it hasn't been. So that kind of blew a lot of this series out of the water. I had the whole idea in my head, the opening the box and like, oh my god, I've managed to find... No, people have got starter boxes they're sending to me, and the generosity and the response has been amazing. But the second video, which was is available now for members and for Patreons, goes through that into some more detail. But today, because it's an out-of-production army, I wanted to talk a little bit more about what it is, the units within it, how it plays, kind of the way it structures and all this kind of thing, because it's not the same animal that it was in N2 and N3 and N4. The change to N5 has made some real big differences. I'm not necessarily going to be sort of comparing and contrasting, but I want to talk about what it is and how it works. So if you've not seen Shock Army before, you're going to meet them now. If you have seen Shock Army, but not in N5, we got some new toys, and it's quite exciting. So we're going to talk about that. But yeah, let's dive into my genius idea of taking a very old army to the Interplanetary in Spain, one of the biggest tournaments in the world for Infinity, and just see how it goes. So, Shock Army of Acontecimento. Let's dive into all the main players that we've got in this army, starting with light infantry. Now, you're going to notice a lot of the aesthetics for these guys, because we're jungle fighters and we don't like to be particularly warm. Sort of the sleeveless number is definitely a look for these guys. And that does mean that we tend to take bullets to the face, not to the armour. It's a thing, you know. If you get hit, walk it off. Don't complain about it, because no one cares. No one really cares about it, so you got to love it. Right, let's dive in, and we'll start with the regulars. Now, the regular profile is pretty regular, to be honest with you. 4/4 movements, CC13. The BS12, it's very, very nice for Pan-Oceania, of course. Get the buff to BS. Fizz 10, Whip 13 is surprisingly handy for certain sides of Pano when it comes to specialists. This does actually mean that Acontecimento regulars have a higher whip than doctors and engineers. So dedicated doctors and engineers for Pano are dumber than the average regular. It's just the world we live in now, kids. 0 armors, 0 BTS and 1 Vita on S2 with terrain jungle. Cool. There's a fairly mundane list apart from that arm 0. Does 1 point of armour make that much difference? Yes, it does. It's a 5% swing on survivability. So, yes, it does make a difference, but, you know, we'll survive. Our standard regular with combi rifle and pistol CC weapon is 10 points, which is nice. BS12 combi rifle for 10 points is kind of cool, but I'd argue you want to spend your money a little bit further down the line on that. We'll come to that in a second. Then you have your Spitfire, you have your standard Burt cannon for 16 points and 1 SWC. Now a 24-inch range, burst 4, probability of survival 6 weapon on a BS12 delivery platform for 16 points is not to be sniffed at. Especially because you can relatively cheaply, I mean, if you wanted to, you could stick 3 combi rifles and a Spitfire together, and for 46 points end up with a platform that is throwing 5 dice, one is a special die, at BS 16 in good range with that Spitfire, because the +1 from the fire team and +3 for range. You could be hitting on 16s with 5 dice. That's going to leave a mark for 46 points. That's kind of cool. Would you do it? Hell no, but you could. And that just shows the kind of quality, the cheapness of this particular sort of crew as they come. Next we have the the one that we all wish to love, but we kind of don't, but it does have its uses. The forward observer. Now, if you don't know about forward observers, the issue with forward observers is they're a specialist. They can do specialist missions inside of the game. They can boop boops, and they can boop boops, and they can do this, and they can do certain classifieds, but the classifieds they can do can also be done by hackers. But when a forward observer goes to do that, they have to have line of sight, whereas the hacker can do it in zone of control, so they don't need line of sight. That means that the hacker needs to put much less risk around themselves to do that particular mission. The same is also true if you want to do the guided missile trick and you want to put targeted on enemy troopers. The forward observer has to see them and then point a laser pointer at that guy and go, shoot him with the missile. Whereas the hacker is behind a wall somewhere going, do, 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 there's the target, drop it in. Your forward observer has a much riskier job and a much lower chance of survival than your average hacker to do the same role, essentially. That said, the loadout of combi rifle and flash pulse is standard, but the deployable repeater is a nice touch. The fact that this guy can build out the hacking network is cool. So 12 points for that flash pulse, the deployable repeater, the forward observer skill on a whip 13 dude. There are many worse ways to spend your points. There are many worse ways to spend your points. There are also many better ways to spend your points. And again, we'll come to that in a second. Then we have the multi-sniper rifle loadout, which is, I mean, I'm not a fan of a defensive build. I love the miniature for this. If you haven't seen it, do look up the multi-sniper miniature for regulars. She's leaning up against a wall. She's got a bag on the floor. It's got a lot of character and a lot of feel for it. It always drove me slightly sideways because everyone else is kind of, you're supposed to be jungle fighting and she's leaning up against a wall. Come on. We've just left a brick wall in the middle of the jungle. I'm sure somebody has, but yeah. Anyway. Very cool miniature nonetheless. She has sapper. This means that you can dig a hole in the ground and then she has cover. Which is kind of handy. The ability that she can just put her cover where she needs it rather than actually going off and finding it is kind of cool. The part of the multi-sniper rifle, also very cool on a light infantry. Very, very funky. And 1 SWC and 20 points. I mean, a BS-12 multi-sniper, sorry, with sapper. I mean, that's not bad. If I took snipers and if I liked playing defensively, that would be a really, really cool build. I don't, and I won't, but, you know, if I did. Whew. Next up, hacker with hacking devices. Standard hacker, again, whip 13, again, BTS 0. This is not ideal, but a whip 13 hacker with combi rifle cyber mines, situational but useful, and a fast panda for 0.5 SWC and 17 points. If you've not seen fast pandas, you drop them, they run to the edge of your zone of control, and they become a repeater. So it builds out your hacking network. So this with the forward observer can be going along laying deployable repeaters. Your hackers can go off and fire out their fast pandas. And of course, if anyone chooses to hack your regular hacker via the fast panda, it's via a repeater, which means that they would get -3 and you get +3 to your BTS. So it does effectively make the regular hacker 3 BTS, kind of, using the firewall mods. 17 points, 0.5 SWC. It's not a bad deal. It's not a bad deal at all. I have no issues with that whatsoever. And then we get the next guy. Whew. I like this. I like this guy a lot. So let's get the boring, fluffy stuff out of the way. This is 0 SWC, and this is 13 points. And I want you to keep that in the very core of you, in your very soul, as I tell you about this little bundle of joy. He just makes me happy in inappropriate ways. So, combi rifle and shock mines. Fair enough. He has mine layer. So during deployment, he puts down a mine. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't wish to speak ill of N5, but we live in an era that incentivizes people to drop combat jumpers and parachute deployment zone monsters into your backfield. This is both inconvenient and rude. If you think your enemy is going to do it, you need to spend orders setting up a defensive perimeter to make sure that if they do that, they're going to die, or their options are limited, or all this kind of stuff. But with our regular, he puts down a mine during deployment. It costs you no orders to do it, and if you take something with baggage, then you can reload that particular mine layer end of your turn anyway. So it costs you nothing. It's just free. Just free. 0 SWC even. I know it's because it has to be in your deployment zone, but in this day and age, mining your own deployment zone is not as dumb as it seems and is kind of helpful. So that little sausage, kind of cool already. He's providing backfield defense for your cheerleaders, for your lieutenant, for all these people in the backfield. He's putting down mines and he's helping everybody out. And this is a nice thing to do, and we do appreciate it. But he's not done. No. He also has sensor. Sensor is a skill. You ping it off, short skill from memory. You do a whip +6 roll, so 13 + 6, so 19. If you succeed, i.e. you don't roll a 20, I can roll 20s like you wouldn't believe. This would be one of those moments, but if you don't roll that 20, if you roll 19 or less, everything in the zone of control of this little chuckle, munchkin, is revealed. Every camo marker is turned over. We know what's underneath it. And crucially, anything in hidden deployment is also revealed. They have to put it on the board and show you who it is. If I remember correctly as well, you can't re-camo when you're in zone of control of a sensor as well. So you light them up, you show who's there, just for one short skill in the roll. Brilliant. Again, situational, but if you get it, if you need it, that little trick, awesome. But we're still not done. This guy also has triangulated fire. If you've not seen triangulated fire, it is a long skill, and you get to fire your weapon in full burst with no mods. No positive range bands for shooting, no negative range bands for cover, for mimetism, nothing. You ignore all of the mods entirely for the shot. So you're going to be shooting at BS12. So your enemy pops that horrible heavy infantry with missile launcher on top of a building 36 inches away, 30 inches away, out of the range band of your combi rifle. It's got mimetism -6. So you've got the negative modifiers for cover, you've got negative modifiers for range, you've got negative modifiers for mimetism, you've got -12, your BS is 12, you can't hit. Long skill, burst of 3, hitting on 12s, triangulated fire. Oh, it's just too much happiness to contain within one small regular, it really is. And if you couple that with sensor and forcing the enemy to put down the units on the board, so you pop sensor and they have to put the troops down on the board, and you discover a mimetism -6 munchkin in cover just on the edge of your deployment zone, Shinobu for example. This guy goes along with triangulated fire and goes boom, 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 until it's gone. 13 points. 3 points more. So the cost of a war core more than a standard combi rifle, triangulated fire, mine layer and sensor. You've defended your back zone. You can clear out any camo markers in an area. You can just ping and they're all there. We know who's what's what and who's who. And triangulated fire for dropping anything nasty that's in cover and in mimetism and stuff. It's just a great little profile. Total availability again. Total AVA. And linkable. Putting these guys into a fight. You know, why wouldn't you? Then we have paramedic, combi rifle, medikit, 12 points. If it came down to choosing between a forward observer and this, you know, it's the ability to heal troopers in your own group for 12 points is definitely worth it. The medikit, having it there is useful. Plus you can do missions with it. So this means that this particular fire team with the paramedic, the hacker and the forward observer, it has that entire section of classifieds it can do, plus it can do the booping of the boop on the midline with various objective-based missions. So it's a very... Acontecimento regulars are a very useful troop, always have been, and remain. Then you have the lieutenant, 10 points for a whip 13 lieutenant. I mean, you could, and if you need a cheap lieutenant, this is definitely the way to do it. Arguably, if you have things like you have a mission where they need to assassinate your lieutenant, that's kind of where you want to take him. 10 points, stick him on top of a building, leave him there prone for the rest of the game, and still have 290 points of violence left on the board to just sweep up the enemy. This is cool. But there are arguably better options for lieutenant inside of Shock Army, and we'll cover those as they come up. Then we have the Comlink +1 specialist operative. So if you're playing the reinforcements mode, what are you doing with your life? But if you are, then you can bring down 6 troopers with this regular, and the specialist operative means they can do missions for 12 points. if you're out there playing reinforcements, if that's the kind of life choices you want to make for yourself, this guy will definitely help you with that. Next up, we have the two standard specialists, the Machinist and the Angel of Death, the Trauma Doc. These are whip 12 specialists, so they are, yeah, prone to disappointment. Now, I know, the regulars will whip 13, and I was like, well, this is quite good. These are whip 12, so it's a 5% fewer chance or lower chance. But, yeah, these are specialists. They should be good at it. If you compare the Machinist to the Clockmaker in Nomads, he's whip 15. The Clockmaker is whip 15, and this one's whip 12. To describe the Machinist as subpar by comparison to the Clockmaker is being generous and doing a slight disservice to the Clockmaker. But we persist anyway. So Machinist, 4/4, CC 13, BS 12, Fizz 10, Whip 12. Yay! 1 armor. So he might live an extra second longer. BTS 3, for when you don't want to be spotlit. 1 Vita S2. And you can take 2 of them. Hurrah! Deactivator Gizmo Kit Engineer. The Gizmo Kit's probably the most useful thing here, but there is a better way to get that. Now, because this is Shock Army of Acontecimento flavoured Machinist, they get Mimetism -3 and Terrain Total, which is a nice buff. It's a nice buff to have. I do wish more things, like why the Trauma Doc doesn't also have Mimetism -3 and Terrain Total. I don't know. It doesn't, but yeah, the Machinist does. You get your standard loadouts. The Combi Rifle decharges for 17 points. Combi Rifle decharges Deployable Cover, 18 points. Does anyone use Deployable Cover? If you do, let me know in the comments. I've yet to be bothered. Combi Rifle decharges an Armoured Turret Combi Rifle for 20 points or Armoured Turret Emitter for 19 points. Yeah, it's a engineer. It is, I think, pretty much the only source of engineering ability inside of Shock Army, and interestingly, Shock Army can build out a fairly crunchy remote and tag-based force. And there's quite a few, there's Oxbots and things like that kicking around, so you have the peripherals running too, and we're going to talk about some other different types of remote as well as we go on with this. An engineer running around the place is useful, so having a Machinist is useful. Even if he is only whip 12, you can re-roll in most circumstances with him, so your mileage may vary, but I think it's almost certainly worth having. And he can do certain missions which other units can't, so yeah, absolutely. Then we have the Trauma Doc, who is the absolute most basic version of a doctor possible, and frequently the most violent with the highest body count on her own team. I have had several Angels of Death, Trauma Docs, and the Angel of Death does just do that. It's, technically she's got a 60% chance of healing anyone that she doctor skills, and you get the reroll. In reality, she mostly kills people she's healing. That's her whole thing. That's her whole bag. That's the thing that she does. And it's very frustrating. It's very disappointing. I seem to recall in a previous incarnation of Shock Army, I had a Trauma Doc that had 7 orders or thereabouts spent on her going from one side of the board to the other side of the board to heal a mission critical trooper that would have won me the game, and she vaulted over a wall, pulled out her healing gun, shot it at the guy, and at that moment realised she'd drawn her pistol and finished him off. It was one of those, yes, she's made it, she's dodged the shots, she's survived, she's good. Oh, what did you do? And that is my lived experience with Trauma Docs. Your mileage may vary, you may not have it, but I tend to find that she's 14 points of, oh, look who she's killed now. So yeah. Anywho, so that is the Trauma Doc for when you absolutely, positively, definitely have to take it, and you don't want to take a regular paramedic, you can take this one. But yeah, for a lot of guys that you're going to run, that you're going to heal with the doctor, their fizz is going to be higher than her whip, so her whip's 12. If they've got a fizz of 12 or a fizz of 14 or something like that, heavy infantry, etc., I think that's right, it used to be right, then it's often better to use the medikit on the paramedic than it is to use the doctor. I know you get the reroll with the doctor, but she's just rubbish. You're just terrible. I wish you weren't, but this is the world we live in now. Anywho. Tech Bees. Oh, we love the Tech Bee. The ultimate comeback queen is your Tech Bee. So she's historically, the Tech Bee has historically been pretty rubbish, but now, so 4-4 move, CC 12, BS 11, Fizz 10, Whip 12, there it is again, Arm 0, which is the greatest hits of everything you could possibly want, 3 BTS, so you can avoid those targeted states, and 1 Vita. Deactivated Gizmo Kit. So when it comes to healing stuff, she's healing things with structure. She's pretty cool. She's as good as the Machinist on that front. No, she doesn't get the reroll. I know. Don't put it in the comments. I know. But she can do the job. She's a Specialist Operative, so she can complete missions. And she has Tag Com. So if you bring her into your list, then she is going to give +3 Fizz to the dodge and +1 Fizz for Gizmo Kit heals to any tags in your army, which is kind of useful for 9 points. And she gives you a regular order. 9 points. Regular order. She has Tag Com, she's got the Gizmo Kit, and she's got Specialist Operative. And, because we're not done yet, Adhesive Launcher, Flash Pulse, and a Deployable Repeater, all on the same thing. I don't know why you wouldn't. In this day and age, in this economy, I'm not sure why you wouldn't want a 9 points regular order with all of the toys. And it is the surprising amount as well of units inside of Shock Army these days that have deployable repeaters. We've already seen the Forward Observer with a deployable repeater. We've seen the Hacker with a Fast Panda. And now we've got another deployable repeater on this Tech Bee. You can comfortably start building a hacking network with Shock Army, which is a level of nuance that we never used to have. But if you're bringing tags, I don't know why you wouldn't bring the Tech Bee. If you want to get a cheap order into your list, I don't know why you wouldn't bring the Tech Bee. If you want to build a hacking network, she's good. If you've got remotes, the Gizmo Kit, she's good. If you want to complete missions, Specialist Operative, she can do some work. I mean, Whip 12, she's dumb as a sort of box of rocks, but she, maybe. Anyway, so Tech Bee, a surprising little nugget of golden happiness. Next up, we have Flight Officer Agnes Ferreira. Agnes Ferreira Rocher. So Agnes is a 4-4 move, CC 14, BS 11, Fizz 10, Whip 13. Hurrah! 1 armor, 6 BTS because and 1 Vita and Silhouette 2. Now she's a character. Oh my goodness, is she ever a character? So you can only have 1 of them, but she has Courage, 6 Sense, Specialist Operative, and Terrain 0G. Okay. Submachine Gun and Nanopulsar for 13 points. I've got to be honest, I'm taking the regular with Sensor, Triangulated Fire, and Mine Layer at that point. If it came down to those 2 options, I'm taking the Mine. I am. Submachine Gun and Nanopulsar, yeah, fine. Useful enough. Courage, 6 Sense, okay. Specialist Operative, sure, maybe. Terrain 0G, it's an option. But comparatively, for 13 points, give me the Mine, give me the Triangulated Fire, give me the Sensor, and get out of the way. That's how it's going to shake down, to be honest with you. However, 16 points gets you the same, but Rem Driver. So this gives the buffs out to the remotes. So +1 BS and +5 CC, which I think we can all agree is a load off. We needed our remotes to have a higher CC value, and I'm just glad they finally listened. But the +1 BS is a really nice buff to remotes. It very much is. Especially if you can get, say, I don't know, marksmanship, so that you can ignore the cover negative mods onto one of your remotes. If only that was really easy. I have to look at that. Anywho, that +1 BS is really, really nice. 16 points. So that's now a 16-point regular order with the remote buffs. Yeah. Yeah, I can see the mileage on that. If you're bringing something chunky, something chewy with your remotes, I can see that. Even if you're doing guided missile trait, give them the +1 BS to your guided missile unit. Yeah, probably worth it actually. So the cute thing here is if you take that 16-point Rem Driver and you smush it together with the Tech Bee for 9 points, 25 points will buff your your tags, a remote, and give you 2 regular orders and 2 Specialist Operatives. This is not awful. This is not a bad thing. This is actually quite cost effective. I can see that working. So yeah, that's kind of cool. And then we have the third version, which is Agnes Chain of Command. So Agnes Bossy Socks. Apparently, getting that nod to be Chain of Command makes her Nanopulsar more effective, so she gets +1 burst on a Nanopulsar. So that's cool. Chain of Command makes her a specialist, but she was specialist already. 18 points for Chain of Command. I think there's very specific circumstances, very specific builds where you're going to run a lieutenant that you need the backup of Chain of Command. But again, 18 points, I can see better places to spend those 18 points than on a Chain of Command trooper. And I think, yeah, I think she's cool, and I think the Rem Driver build is really useful. And there's another option for Chain of Command, which is arguably more useful. So yeah, I mean, she's not a bad unit by any stretch of the imagination, but I think the cream of the crop there is that Rem Driver, that coupled with the Tech B, and just handing out buffs to your mechanized units, to your structured units, is kind of tasty. It's very much worth having. So now we get onto the medium infantry. Now we're going to get into the extra exciting, happy, clappy stuff. So I hope you're all buckled in, because let's go. Starting with the Akali Sikh Commandos. These guys are awesome. I love some Akali. They are great. 4/4 movement, CC16, BS13, because Q, that's why. Here's 11, Whip 13, 2 armor, 0 BTS and 1 Vito on S2 platform with availability 3. Awesome. Combat jump, parachutist, religious troop. That's not so great, but you know, okay. And super jump jet propulsion. A nice aggressive stat line there. They're a good drop trooper. You know, the arm 2 is fine. You should be engaging from cover, so you're effective arm 5. And that BS13 is nice and tasty. That's a good thing. That's the kind of thing you want to stick in the enemy's backfield. That's the kind of thing you want to jump in. The Fizz 11 for the combat jump, not ideal. But then you can get units that can buff that. Your Evo bots can put a combat jump assist. I can't remember what it's called, but a program, so they give +3 to that. Then you're going to land your combat jumps 70% of the time. So that's, you know, that's doable. But what loadouts do we have? A combi rifle and EM carbine for 23 points. Okay. Combi rifle is good. The EM carbine suddenly appearing behind a tag or remotes, total reaction bot, something like that. That could be tasty. That could be useful. The Specialist Operative with boarding shotgun +1 burst, decharges and deployable repeater for 21 points, however, is a bit mucky. It's a bit tasty, in my view. The +1 burst on the boarding shotgun. So we've got a burst 3 boarding shotgun there, so AP ammunition. We've got decharges, so we can do missions with that. We've got Specialist Operatives, so we can do missions with that. And we've got deployable repeater. So if you're going first and you drop this guy in, you can start building your hacking network on the enemy's edge of their deployment zone without making a roll, because you just walk on with parachutist. If they have remotes, if they have tags, this is comedy. This is pure comedy. The EMCC weapon as well is, you know, it's nice enough on CC16, but I'd probably rather shoot stuff, because the BS13 is going to be better, you know. If you're using that boarding shotgun up close and personal, which you should be, you're going to get the +6 at short range. You're going to be BS19 with burst 3. There's very little that is not going to be inconvenienced by a boarding shotgun at BS19. Let's be honest. And the deployable repeater is a very nice touch. Then we have the Spitfire. 1.5 SWC and 26 points. Parachutist, BS13, Arm 2. That can do some work. That is that Alpha Strike unit. That is the get in their face, early game, and chew them up. Or if you're going second, go in that inconvenient point between the stuff they left behind and the stuff they moved forward, and then just go ham on the squidgy targets, basically. Pour fire on stuff. So he's kind of useful. Good luck tracking one down. I managed to find one, thankfully, due to the kindness of strangers, and I shall love him and stroke him and call him my squishy. But he's definitely going to do some breaking of faces and hearts, and I look forward to doing that one. And then we have the Akal Commando Hacker. So again, drop him in. He's whip 13, so not awful. Good for missions, good potentially to, if you can get in there early, there is nothing funnier than your first move being to drop the hacker right by the deployment zone of the enemy. The second one being move up, hack, total control the enemy tag. It's just hilarious. That will never not be funny. And as it occurs to your opponent what you're doing, the rising sense of panic on the other side of the board will never not be sweet nectar. So 0.5 SWC and 25 points for a combi rifle hacker that can cause absolute mayhem by being exactly the one place your enemy didn't want them to be. Except no substitutes. I just love the fact that you can do the boarding shotgun, Spitfire and combi rifle together because you've got the AVA to do that, and that's only, what, 72 points and 2 SWC for 3 airborne deployed, absolute anarchy, chaos-inducing nightmare machines. Love it. Absolutely brilliant. Then we have the Bagmarine. Now, Bagmarine have and will always be one of my favourite units in Infinity. They have always been a unit which people look down on and people go, oh yeah, but I have always been a fan of Bagmarine and I will always love taking links of Bagmarine. I think they are so much fun. I think they do way more work than people anticipate. A little bit like bolts used to be. They just have this sweet spot combination of skills, and in N5 they've been buffed. So yes, all day, basically. So let's have a look at them. 4-4 movements, CC16, BS13, hello baby. So it used to be 12 from memory. Fizz 11, Whip 13, 2 armor, 3 BTS and 1 Vita, with AVA 5 and a silhouette of 2. Okay, multispectral visor level 1 built into everybody. All of the little bundle of happiness we're going to talk about all have multispectral visor level 1. They all have mimetism -3. They all have NCO. This is nice. They all have number 2, so good luck breaking that link. They all have terrain total and they all have Warhorse. So, yeah, you can't break the link by killing the lieutenant. You can't break the link by killing the link leader. If you get a Bagmarine fire team on the board, the Bagmarine fire team will stay there until there is no one left. Love them. They are glorious. Now, what do they come with? Your standard 23-point Bagmarine comes with a combi rifle and light shotgun. Good at medium range, good at close range. Okay, all right, fair enough. Then we have a heavy machine gun. 1.5 SWC and 30 points for a BS13 multispectral visor level 1 mimetism -3 death machine. Powered by NCO. This is nice. Then we have a hacker. Now, the Whip 13 and the BTS 3 with a hacker, that's nice. That is nice. 29 points, 0.5 SWC. It's not the cheapest thing in the world, but as part of a fire team, it's going to be going up the field anyway. 6 points and 0.5 SWC more than a standard Bagmarine. I can live with that. I could definitely live with that. Then we have the paramedic, combi rifle, light shotgun, medikit, 25 points. A lieutenant option, combi rifle, light shotgun, 21 points. You kind of incentivise to take the lieutenant because it's 2 points cheaper than a standard Bagmarine, but you're not taking that one. Then we have a forward observer who has flash pulse, decharges, a boarding shotgun plus 1 burst, because yes, we do, for 22 points. Now, my love for that remains the same as the boarding shotgun plus 1 burst for the Akal Commando. It's great. It's a great little unit that can go down the field and it can do some work. Is it as good as the Akal? No, it's not. It's not. It doesn't have the deployable repeater, which I would prefer. And being a forward observer with flash pulse over the specialist operative, again, as I've said, forward observers are incredibly situational and relying on something that needs line of sight. When you have a hacker option for 7 points more that could do it out without line of sight, yeah. It's cool. I like it. I like it more for the boarding shotgun than I do for the forward observer, to be honest with you. Then we have a mine layer multi-sniper rifle shock mine for 1.5 SWC and 29 points. I mean, a multispectral visor level 1 multi-sniper rifle with BS13 is not awful. It's not. There's not. It's just not. It's a good enough build, but and it's got the shock mine, so you can put the mine down in deployment zones. We have the benefits of the regular that can do it. Put the mine down, cover the deployment zone. This is good, but 1.5 SWC, 29 points. It's, I don't know. I just find that, especially with the limit of 5 Bagmarine, I'd rather be aggressive with my Bagmarine and take them upfield and be sticking it to the man rather than waiting for him to turn up. So the multi-sniper with the mine layer for Bagmarine is a prefer to be more aggressive. Then we have a lieutenant option with HMG, 1.5 SWC and 27 points. So again, 3 points cheaper than a standard HMG if you take it as a lieutenant. But if you do that, you're going to take Agnes because you're going to need that chain of command. Anything that you save on the heavy machine gun, you're going to spend on buffing Agnes to be your chain of command guy. Yeah, I love Bagmarines. I think as a fire team, they can be right little death machines. They can really get in your face. That boarding shotgun up close, light shotguns all over the place, heavy machine gun for the longer range. They do a lot of work. They have a lot of fun, and the baked in MSV, Mimetism, NCO is really tasty, along with the Warhorse and number 2. They are just a supremely awesome and very flavourful little unit. So I have a lot of love for them, and I think always will. So who's next? The characters. We have Lieutenant Stephen Rao, Lieutenant Stephen Rao. So he is a Bagmarine with bells on. That's it. He's CC16, BS13, Vis 11, Whip 14. So he's a very clever boy. Do not be thinking that Lieutenant Stephen Rao is not a clever boy. He is very clever. Arm 2, BTS 3, 1 Vita. Availability 1 because he's a character, and S2. Everything else is pretty much the same apart from the immunity to shock. So you can't just drop him out the box by hitting him with the shock round, even though he is 1 Vita. As to your loadouts, you can take him with NCO for 25 points, which is, it's shell games in that position. Because he's Lieutenant Stephen Rao, and he's a very obvious lieutenant, having him with NCO and being able to spend the lieutenant order on him can make him look like he's the lieutenant when he's not. Would I bother with that? No, I wouldn't. You have a +1 command token or a +1 order variant of Lieutenant Stephen Rao as a lieutenant. A 27 point Whip 14 lieutenant who can look after himself. The Mimetism, the Multispectral Visor, he's quite durable with that Arm 2 with the BTS 3. He's probably going to survive. Lieutenant +1 order to fuel a Bagmarine link, all with NCO. Awesome. Do that all day. Very, very useful. Very, very potent. So, for me, Lieutenant Stephen Rao is the boss, the governor, the Dalai Lama. And he looks like Angry Jesus. Who doesn't need Angry Jesus in their life? The assault pistol as well that he brings to the table is also nice. If enemy does get close enough to start being a concern, being able to go Bert with an assault pistol is very nice. That BS13 and the Multispectral Visor and good unit. Then we have Kirpal Singh, the Akali Sergeant. Other character that we bring to the board. Now, 4/4 CC21, BS13, Fizz 12, Whip 13, 2 Arm, 3 BTS, 1 Vita, S2 and 1 AVA. Combat Jump, Immune to Shock, Martial Arts Level 1, NCO, so if you do have Lieutenant Stephen Rao with the +1 order, you can also fuel this monster with those two. Parachutist, Religious Troop, Stealth, and Super Jump Jet Propulsion. He either comes with Chain of Command, so this is our second Chain of Command option, with D-charges and the boarding shotgun with +1 special die, which is, it's not awful, with a boarding pistol and EMCC weapon with PS6 for 26 points, or as a specialist operative with an AP combi rifle and an assault pistol for 28 points. Yeah, he's a little murder machine, to be honest. If you have an enemy with heavy infantry in their backfield, if you need to decharge something, if you've got missions to complete, the specialist operative, the decharges on this guy with the AP combi rifle and the assault pistol, he's going to do some work. That BS-13's tasty. You know, the fact that he has stealth means that you can get behind the enemy lines and then just get into that really inconvenient position, especially with super jump jet propulsion, to do maximum damage. To really do maximum damage. And he's a great little unit. So you could take 4 combat jumpers in this one list if you wanted. 3 sort of standard commandos and then sing. This is not bad. It's not necessarily a good idea, it's just not a bad idea. It's funny though. So then we have Armand. So artichoke face. No, be nice. A freelance mercenary Tohar from memory. 4 movements, CC21, BS13, Fizz12, Whip13, 2 arm, 3 BTS, 2 Vita. And then BS attack shock baked in as standard. Forward deployment plus 4 inches, mimetism -6, natural born warrior, stealth and transmutation 1. So when he takes a knock, he drops from arm 2 and BTS 3 to arm 0 and BTS 0. That's what happens there. And he loses some of his abilities. His mimetism goes. He can no longer forward deploy. Anyway, so points wise, loadout wise, you have mine layer with shock mines, multi-sniper rifle and nanopulsar with breaker pistol plus 1 burst, viral CC weapon for 1.5 SWC and 33 points, or a multi-spectral visor version, or spectral visor 1, with multi-sniper and nanopulsar, breaker pistol, blah 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 blah, 1.5 SWC and 34 points. I mean, he's a thoroughbred sniper. That's essentially what you're looking at here. The BS shock baked in as standard, the multi-sniper rifle as standard, the forward deployment, the mimetism -6, the BS13, the 2 arms. You're going to be in cover, so you arm 5. He's going to be -9. He is just he is a freelance killer. It's in the name. Would I take him? I think that there is a shock and awe factor with a unit like this, because you put this down on the board. It's going down on the board, and it's probably going down on the board quite early during deployment. You don't want to hold this one back. You want to put it down on the board and be like, right, now deploy around that. But having it in cover and being, effective, de facto -9 to hit with cover and with that mimetism -6 is hilarious. If you couple that with multi-spectral visor level 1, you can engage most things. The multi-sniper rifle is hilarious. You have the different ammo types, but you've got BS attack shock anyway, so you're always going to fire AP ammunition, because why wouldn't you? Inactive phase, I mean. Yeah, it's just a solid unit, to be honest with you. He is just a solid choice. But I am almost certain that I will always have other places that I want to spend 33 to 34 points. But who knows? Maybe it'll appear as a surprise at some point. Then we have Sylar. So she has come in from Steel Phalanx. And oh boy, I do love this unit. I've got the old school original Sylar, and she's a bit janky in her positioning and stuff, but she's going on the board. It's coming. So she has 4 movement, CC20, BS12, Fizz11, only Whip 13, Arm 2, BTS 6, which is nice, 1 Vita, S2, and 1 availability. She has ECM Hacker -3, Courage, Immune to Shock, and Terrain Jungle. Where is the fun in that? Well, I'm glad you asked. We have 3 profiles, and they have all of the stuff. She is a hacker with a capital H. She is Hacky McHackface. So your first version is a standard hacker with a Trinity with SR -2 baked in. So you're getting -2 to your saving roll. This isn't a nice thing. This isn't a friendly thing to give to someone else in any way, shape or form. Let's be honest. Now, of course, if you use Trinity, then you get natively from Trinity +3. So at that point, she is actually Whip 16, which is kind of tasty. And because she has Hacker -3, if they try and counter hack you if you're taking on a hacker with Trinity and they try and counter hack you, they're getting -3 and you're getting +3. That's not pleasant. That's just not pleasant. Light shotgun pitcher, so she can build her own network. If you didn't already have people dropping fast pandas, deployable repeaters around the board, the ability for this army to project a hacking network is quite surprising and definitely something different. Then she has an emitter, the Charybdis Deverbot, which we'll talk about in a second, pistol, shock CC weapon, 0.5 SWC and 32 points. I live with that. I can live with that all day long, that's fine. But if you don't want to do that, you can take her as an Evo hacker. Now I don't know, if there's somebody else, do put it in the comments, do let me know, but I don't know anywhere else that you can get an Evo hacker that isn't a baggage remote. All the other Evo hackers that I can think of are that, unless I would imagine Tohar probably have something crazy. But anyway, you get the idea. So she can take an Evo hacker. So she can hand out the marksmanship to a remote. She can hand out fairy dust. She can do the combat jump assisting thing and get the extra buffs in if you brought 4 Akali commandos because you don't like having friends. That's really, really useful. That's really, really useful, especially because you still have the Trinity with SR-2 in there. So it's still kind of, I'm going to put the Evo stuff out there. I'm a hacker, so I can still do certain missions. But if another hacker comes along and tries to mess with me, I will pop their brains out their ears. Comedy will ensue. For some reason, the loadout of the weapons in this particular situation is in different formats. So it's still the same emitter, light shotgun, pitcher, Deverbot Charybdis, pistol, shock CC weapon, 0.5 SWC and 32 points. So effectively you can either have an Evo hacker or a hacking device standard for 32 points and 0.5 SWC. What does this Charybdis do? The standard Charybdis is synchronized, so it has to stay within 8 inches of herself. 6-4 movements, CC 15, BS 11, Fist 10, Whip 11, 0 arm, 3 BTS and 1 structure. Hacker -3, it's got a repeater built in, so she's got her own network extension anyway. You didn't want to use your pitcher for some reason, you just send your Charybdis off. Courage, peripheral synced, and terrain total with a heavy flamethrower. That is what a Charybdis be. But we also have an FTO version of Sylar, so she can draw on fire teams with the hacker, emitter, light shotgun pitcher, same as before, but it has the Charybdis FTO. She has the Charybdis FTO now. Now this bumps the price. In the list of Sylars there, you'll see that it says she's 25 points. The FTO build is actually at the bottom of the screen. So you buy Sylar FTO and the Charybdis FTO, and it's 37 points. The Charybdis FTO, ECM hacker, repeater, the same stuff that you have before. So why would you take a Charybdis FTO, which is 12 points, rather than the Deverbot Charybdis, which is 7. Remote peripheral synced can't go into a fire team. FTO means they go into a fire team. The Charybdis FTO is its own unit that generates its own order. That is a 12-point heavy flamethrower repeater with hacker -3 that generates a regular order and goes in a fire team. Isn't that fun? Isn't that exciting? I think that's quite cool. Especially, I mean, if I was taking the hacker version of Sylar, I would probably almost always take the FTO version as standard anyway, because for those extra 5 points, your repeater can wander off down the field without you, and you get the extra order. I mean, 5 points for an extra regular order and a wandering repeater. It's got to be worth 5 of anyone's points, surely. So, that is Sylar. Next up, we're going to go into the heavy infantry for Shock Army, and we're going to start with the Guarda de Salto. Oh, the little legend. 6-2 movements, CC 17, BS 15. We pano, we go boom boom. Fizz 14. So if you want to heal a Guarda de Salto, and you only have a Trauma Doc Angel of Death, then use her Medikit. Because she'd heal him on a 12 and he'd heal himself on a 14, which is slightly embarrassing. Whip 13, Arm 3, BTS 3, 2 Vita, 2 Silhouette, and AVA 2. Combat Instinct, so ignores those surprise shots coming in. and mimetism -3. The Guarda, to me, is in many ways the definitive Shock Army unit. Controversial. It's not Bagmarie. Could be, should be. Regulars also. Could be, should be. Guarda, for me, is where it's at. Because this is incredibly focused, even in the new edition. So what do you get? You either get the multi-rifle, heavy flamethrower with decharges and an Oxbot. AP heavy Spitfire for 40 points. AP heavy pistol, not heavy Spitfire. Dear Lord, I wish. AP heavy pistol for 40 points. Or the Spitfire heavy flamethrower, decharges, Oxbot, AP heavy pistol for 1.5 SWC and 44 points. Or a heavy rocket launcher with +1 burst and all the other toys for 40 points and 1.5 SWC. And that Oxbot that comes with this, 6-4 movement, CC13, BS11, Viz10, Whip 11, 0 arm, 3 BTS and 1 structure, combat instinct, courage, mimetism -3, and synchronized, so staying within 8 inches of your Guarda. Light shotgun, eclipse grenade launcher, and a light flamethrower on that little bundle of joy and happiness. The Guarda de Salto's only purpose is violence. His only reason for existing is to get in your face and hurt you. The arm 3, the mimetism -3, vaguely survivable getting up board. If you're going to be engaging people from cover, you're going to be arm 6, mimetism 6 effective. This is good. BS 15, very, very tasty. The multi-rifle, you can stick the AP ammunition in there if you've got something heavy to chew on. But the Spitfire, medium light infantry, he will just buzz through it. Anything too difficult with mimetism, just set fire to it. You got a heavy flamethrower, that's what that's for. And the new loadout with the heavy rocket launcher +1 burst, it's probably my least favourite, to be honest with you. Guarda likes to be in the face of the enemy, in my opinion. So being sat on the backfield and going pop, pop, pop with the heavy rocket launcher, I guess. I'd rather be getting up there. And the Oxbot, you know, if you get something that's too difficult to chew through, you put the Eclipse grenade in its face so that it can't see you to shoot you. You can pop it around a corner and set fire to people with a light flamethrower. There's, you know, there's all kinds of fun stuff. Because it's synchronized as well, what you can do is send the Oxbot around one corner, the Guarda around the other, and shoot at the same target. And one's setting fire, so you want to dodge, and the other one's using the Spitfire or a multi-rifle to shoot. It really is unpleasant. And the fact you can take 2 for under 100 points, this makes me happy, but it does make baby Jesus, angry Jesus cry. Happy tears, angry Jesus cries for these guys. But yeah, I love the Guarda. I think it's an awesome unit. It is maybe lacking some of the tips and tricks and toys and doodads that certain other N5 heavy infantry get. If this was in Kestrel, it would probably have super jump, climbing plus, 3 disco ballers, and if the enemy saw it, they'd catch on fire. But for a nice focused heavy infantry, it does a really cracking job. So, and who doesn't want BS 15? Yes, absolutely. Then we have the first of 2 Knight Montessas. If you've seen them in military orders, this is going to be very familiar to you. So 4-4 movements, CC23, BS 13, Fizz 13, Whip 13, 4 arm, 6 BTS and 2 Vita. BS attack +1 special die, which is kind of tasty. They're impetuous, they have limited cover, martial arts level 2, mimetism -3, religious troop, and terrain, aquatic and jungle. You can have a forward deployed unit with a Red Fury for 32 points and 1.5 SWC. A forward deployed unit with paramedic and boarding shotgun for 26 points, which is kind of cool. You know, a Whip 13 specialist with 4 arm, mimetism -3 and 2 Vita. That's not awful. Or the standard FTO paramedics that goes into a fire team with boarding shotgun Blitzen. Medikit boarding pistol, 20 points. That's not bad either. As the FTO implies, these guys can be fire teamed. And they are fairly crunchy and they are pretty solid. They're a pretty tasty option. I mean, that FTO option with the boarding shotgun BS 13, you're hitting on 19s with that boarding shotgun. At 20 points, that's not bad at all. But do you know what's better than those? It's these, because it's the same thing but on bikes, so they're even quicker. So 8.6 movement now, which is slightly better than 4.4. CC23, BS13, Phys13, Whip13, Arm4, 6 BTS, and 2 Vita on a motorcycle, plus 1-inch dodge, immune to shock, impetuous, limited cover, martial arts level 2, mimetism -3 still, and a religious troop. You know, it's going to get in your face, it's going to stay in your face, it's going to do horrible things to you. You have a boarding shotgun for 21 points, a multi-rifle for 26 points, a Red Fury for 29 points and 1 SWC, or the paramedic with boarding shotgun for 23 points. So 20 points gets you, so 26 points gets you the forward deployment, plus 8 inches boarding shotgun, paramedic on foot. Or for 23 points, 3 points less, you can get the paramedic on bike. You know, your mileage may vary. Can they be fire teamed? Yeah. The AVA2, yeah, they can. So yeah, we'll talk about that one in a minute. And then we have Orc Troopers. I'm not going to spend too much time on these guys. They are the most vanilla of fire teams, but also with some nice touches around the edges. The 4-arm, the 2 Vita, the 3 BTS is cool. The ability to build in firewall -3 relatively easily is quite cool. 28 point, 4 armor, 2 Vita, Whip 12 Lieutenant. I don't see me doing that. The Feuerbach is nice. The heavy machine gun is nice with that BTS 14. But to be honest with you, they feel the least flavourful of everything in here. And I don't recall them being in there in N2 or N3. And they're fine. If you like orcs and you've got orcs, they're cool. Will I get some and paint some up for my army at some point? Maybe. Probably not. I have better options, but there we go. So orcs is orcs and they're fine, but yeah. Then we're going to get involved in the tags. Some taggy goodness. Let's get heavy. Starting with the Dragos. 6-4 movements, CC 18, BS 15, Phys 15, Whip 13, Arm 8, BTS 6 and 3 structure. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a heavy tag. A heavy tag that is designed as a weapons platform. That is all the Drago do. That is all they do. There is nothing else for it. That is all. That is everything. Yes. So, BS attack SR -1, which is not friendly. Courage, dodging on an 11, gizmo kitting on a 13, immune to continuous damage. If anyone felt like setting fire to an Arm 8 tag, it's now a bad idea. Remote presence, tactical awareness to get that bonus order, and terrain jungle. So, that loadout then. Hyper rapid magnetic cannon. Now, I'm going to refer, because I don't want to get this one wrong, I'm actually going to look at the stats of this one so I get this fully right. That is a burst 5, PS5, oh no, sorry, BS attack SR -1, so effectively potential survival 4 weapon. The sweet spots are the same as an HMG. It's good up to 32 inches, gets to zeros under 16 inches and down to 8, and then 8 and lower it's -3. Goes all the way up to over the size of the board in maximum range. In ARO, you're going to be using the DA variant, which is burst 1, so it's dual action in ARO. And then you have a choice of either shock or armor piercing. So you can do burst 5, again, with ballistic skill 15, you can do burst 5 AP rounds with a PS of 4. Why not? Why not? Let's do it. Love it. So it is purely sitting at the backfield going Bert. That is the whole thing. Anything gets too close, you've got heavy flamethrower with +1 burst. And again, you know, SR -1. If somebody wants to get into close combat with you, then you've got an AP CCW with PS5. 1.5 SWC, 76 points. A Drago in cover on the backfield is arm 11, -3 to hit, and is throwing 5 dice at you with anything that can see, it's just going to go Bert at. If it can get you in good range, which, you know, 32 inches, it probably can, especially because it's moving 6'4", so it's not going to break a sweat to get things in good range. If you have a mimetism -3 trooper, then it's going to hit you on 12s. If it's in cover, it's going to hit you on 9s. But 5 dice at 9s is not awful when it's in cover and it's mimetism. Do you know what I mean? The Drago is just, yeah, it's a weapons platform. It's a delivery system for violence. It does that well. It always has done, and I love it for that fact. Many years ago, when JSA and was still under the subjugation of the monsters that are Yu Qing, I had a Drago engage an Oyuroi tag and a Guija tag. I went first. They were put in a position to ARO, and I took care of both of them over 2 orders. It was just, I delete that tag, I delete that tag. Which, the tags were more expensive at that point. I think that was N2. And that was one of those situations where you're like, okay, so most of your army's dead. First 2 orders of the game. Drago can be absolutely monstrous. Yeah, and with a bit of care, monstrous throughout the entire game. So yeah, we love them. But speaking of monsters, the baby monsters, Tick Balangs. Tony is not forgotten. So 6'4" movement, CC17, BS15, hell yes. Fizz 15, Whip 13, 6 arms, 6 BTS and 3 structure, Silhouette 6. This is a small tag, but still manages to have arm 6. Tick Balangs are absolutely brilliant for harassment, and let's look at why. Guided -6, BS stack SR -1, climbing plus. So that's 6'4", comes with climbing plus. Courage, dodging on an 11, Gizmo kitting on a 13, mimetism -3, remote presence, attack aware, terrain total. Now, you'll remember earlier we were talking about the Tech B that gives these +3 to dodge. So these are dodging on 14s. If you have a Tech B for 9 points. I mean, your mileage may vary, but I'm not seeing a situation where I wouldn't want my Arm 6, 3 structure Tick Balangs with BS 15 to be dodging on a 14. I don't see for 9 points I'd ever not do that. That's kind of an auto include. What weaponry do we have here? We have the heavy machine gun, heavy flamethrower with shock mines. Because, you know, sometimes you've just got that short skill left over and you think, what shall I do? I'm just going to poop a mine here with my tag. APCC weapon with PS5, 1.5 SWC and 69 points. It's not unreasonable, they're AVA2, so you can take a pair of these. And you can take a lieutenant with +1 order with heavy machine gun, heavy flamethrower, blah, 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 blah. 73 points and 1.5 SWC. For myself, I don't think I'll ever take the lieutenant because Tick Balang should be run aggressively. And the lieutenant, even if you have chain of command, it just puts... It's too risky, in my opinion. I don't think I'd do that. It just feels a little bit too much. I'd rather save the 4 points, put them into half of a Tech B, and get the extra dodging, etc., on the go for that little bit easier choice. You know, Angry Jesus is an obvious lieutenant. He can power the Bagmarie fire team while these guys are going off and doing their mischief. So, yeah, the tags in Shock Army, there aren't many of them. There's 3 in total, but they are potent. We have a heavy weapons platform that sits in the backfield and goes Bert, and then we have the Tick Balangs that get up in your face, set fire to everything, and then machine gun the rest. They're not particularly friendly, but my god, they're funny, so that's important. Next, we're going to look at the other units. I've not bothered talking about the remotes, or most of the remotes in here, because they're standard. I don't really, see the point in doing that. I wanted to focus more on the stuff that's potent, especially because this particular video is going to be monstrously huge anyway. I said it wasn't going to be a full faction focus, but I think as I look at the recording at the moment, it's 1 hour and 2 minutes in. So it basically is a full faction focus, but hey, here we go. Peacemakers, they need to be talked about because they are, for me, the quintessential Shock Army remote. 6'4" movement, CC 13, BS 12, the Fizz of 10, Whip 13, 1 arm, 3 BTS, 1 structure. They've got a repeater on board, which is useful because, you know, there isn't any other way to build a network with this particular army. Courage, forward deployment +8, mimetism -3, and remote presence. Heavy shotgun or boarding shotgun flavours, they all come with pulsars. You can get them with 2 flavours of Oxport, either with the heavy flamethrower and shock mine, or heavy flamethrower, shock mine, and mine layer, which is kind of cool. The price-wise, 23, 24, 23, 27. So 27 points for the boarding shotgun with +1 burst and an Oxbot with heavy flamethrower and shock mine. I don't think that's too bad. I mean, stretch imagination, but I do like the heavy shotgun pulsar Oxport 3B, which is the mine layer variant, for 24 points and 0.5 SWC. So you're going to forward deploy 8 inches with the Oxport and with the Peacemaker, and then you're going to put a mine in the same range bands as well. That's a lot of fun. I like the aggressive play that Peacemakers bring to the table. You know, it's a shotgun, so it's got to get close. If it does get close, it's got a repeater on board, so if anyone tries to hack it, you can counter hack. Forward deployment, so it's nice and far down the board to start off with. That 6-4 movement makes it quick. They're a really solid unit, and mimetism -3 makes them that little bit more survivable and durable. If you bring Agnes with the REM driver ability, then these are actually BS13 and CC16 with their para CC weapons. So that's a load of. But you know, BS13 on these guys, kind of useful. That wouldn't be a bad thing, having one of those. So yeah, I've always been a fan of Peacemakers. Traditionally, they are the door kickers that I have used for Guarda. So run a pair of Guardas with Spitfires, but send the Peacemaker up the board first to kick in the doors and deal with any skirmishing units that are towards the midline. Just send that heavy flamethrower Oxbot around the corner. Send mines around the corner these days. That's one of the options too. Anything that doesn't die to the Oxbot's delicate hand and attentions, the Peacemaker comes along and follows up too. Just clear that swathe through the middle and then send Guardas route 1 straight through the middle into the enemy's deployment zone to start chopping stuff up. That's, you know, chopping stuff up with a Spitfire normally, but you know what I mean. So yeah, we do love a bit of Peacemaker. Beast Hunters are in here too. It's still bizarre that you can't use that gorgeous sort of Asian-inspired miniature in JSA. So I had to get them. I had to get one in for this army. They're cool. 4/4 movement, CC21, BS11, Fizz 13, Whip 12. So they fit right in with Pano. 0 arm, 0 BTS, 1 Vita. Mimetism -3, Religious Troops, Stealth, Super Jump, and Terrain total. You've either got the FTO version with Heavy Flamethrower, Panzerfaust, and AP Mines for 9 points, or Camouflage forward deployment variants with Tactical Bow, Panzerfaust, or Heavy Flamethrower +1 Burst and Panzerfaust. AP Mines are nice. They're the shock people don't expect. The Flamethrower is nice. The Panzerfaust is tasty. The fact that these are between 9 and 17 points, I think, are they irregular? Just having that moment as I'm talking about it, I can't remember whether they're irregular or not, but they are a surprisingly nice little shock to the system. Yes, they are all irregular. They're a surprisingly sort of useful little shock to the system. Taking the FTO version for 9 points, I wouldn't necessarily do, but a 15-point heavy flamethrower Panzerfaust, stick that in camouflage, 8 inches up the board. See, this is when it gets funny. You stick that with the Peacemaker for 23 points with the Oxbot 3. So that camo marker that is in fact a Beast Hunter is going to look like it's the mine from the 3B, even though it's not. So an uncautious opponent is going to see that camo marker go down and they're going to go, oh, right, that is the mine that's come out of the Peacemaker. Until the mine starts shooting Panzerfaust at them. I mean, why wouldn't you? Hilarity will ensue. Love it. So these can form a nice synergy with Peacemakers if you so wish, but they're also just great in their own right. Just popping out Panzerfaust and stuff to death. You got to love that. It's just brilliant. And then we have Dart. Now Dart, I think this weekend I'm picking up my Dart. I've got a limited edition one from the show exclusive that Corvus Belly was doing. So it's a reprint of an old version of Dart. Beautiful miniature. 4-4 movement, CC 16, BS 13, Fizz 13, Whip 13, 1 arm, 3 BTS, 1 Vita, multi-spectral visor level 1, camouflage, climbing plus, courage, decoy 1, so she can put down 2 camo markers, not 1, forward deployment plus 8 inches, so she's up there with your peacemakers, with your beast hunters. We've got this nice screen forming up here. Immune shock, mimetism -3, no wounding cap, specialist operative, stealth, surprise attack -3, terrain total. She has all of the skills. Loadout wise, you've got the AP submachine gun, viral tactical bow with +1 special die and EM grenades, 35 points, or with shock mines for 35 points, or with mine layer and shock mines for 36 points and 0.5 SWC. Dart with peacemakers, with beast hunters, is that little bit of mid-board control. Just outside of the mid-board, you can lock down your deployment zone even further. If you need to keep the enemy back, if you're doing something where you've got something on your deployment zone, they need to come and get, you've got your HVT they may need to come and mess with, you can just build with these units a screen of, by all means, come this way, please. That's what it's there to do. So, gotta love that. She's not cheap. 35, 36 points, 1.5. It's getting up to Guarda territory, but it's 1.5 Bag Marie. So, it's not cheap. Cool unit. Definitely going to run her. It's going to be a joy. Play shell games with the Beast Hunter and the Peacemaker. Hilarity will ensue. Anyway, but very cool unit, very gorgeous miniature. So, looking forward to running her. Then we have the Nagas, so another element of LF making its way across. Great little skirmishing unit, 4-4 movements, CC 16, BS 12, Fizz 12, Whip 14 is nice, 1 arm, BTS 0 is not that great, and 1 Vita with a silhouette of 2 and AVA of 2. Camouflage, courage, dogged, which is cool, infiltration, mimetism -3, stealth, surprise attack -3, and terrain total. So these are deploy up the board, cause mischief. Essentially, they are going in front of your screen of Dart, of Peacemakers, of Beast Hunters, of Mines. These guys are in front of that. What do they bring? Boarding shotgun, shock mine, 24 points. The very rare and very desirable combi rifle monofilament mine for 29 points. If you've not seen monofilament yet, well, it's not something you're familiar with. Essentially, these guys have, I think they're PS7 from memory, but they ignore all armour, and if you fail one save, you go straight to dead. You're off the board. So if you have a full health tag that gets hit by a monofilament mine and fails its save, it is removed from the board instantly. It's gone. What's not to love? So you've got those. You used to, back in the day when I was young, you used to be able to get a Naga monofilament, I think, with mine layer, which was just brilliant. Anyway, then we have the multi-sniper rifle for 1.5 SWC and 27 points. I've never really liked that loadout because you pay for infiltration and you don't really want the sniper rifle up the board. So, yeah, not a huge fan of that one, but the Naga mine layer with boarding shotgun and shock mines for 0.5 SWC and 25 points, so you can put a mine down on the midline along with your Naga. This is cool. This is good. Bit of board control, bit of force projection. Then we have a killer hacker with combi rifle, shock mines, 30 points and 0 SWC. The Whip 14 with the +3 from Trinity if you're attacking a hacker is really, really useful. The lack of BTS kind of sucks. Where that comes into its own is the ability for Shock Army to build such an extensive and good quality hacking network that you're going to be getting the firewall mods, hopefully, most of the time when you're using that particular one. But you never know. I mean, infiltration potentially offsets it, so. But we love it. Then we have a hacker with submachine gun, shock mines, and decharges, so a mission completing machine. There's a whole range of different missions that particular profile can complete for 0.5 SWC and 28 points. Fair enough. And then we have a forward observer, combi rifle, flash pulse, shock mine, decharges, 28 points. I'd take the hacker with submachine gun over that guy. I don't think there's a reason that I'd take the forward observer at this point. Until they start incentivizing using forward observers again, I don't really see the point in that guy. He's not going to be useful. But Naga specialists up the board, if you've got midline objectives to capture and you're going first, Naga specialists will take care of it for you. That whip 14 will get the job done. Yeah, they're dogged, so they don't have 2 wounds, but if they gain a wound, sorry, then they keep going until they get another one, or you stop spending orders. So they are kind of durable, but realistically it's a complete mission, probably die, or kill a hacker defense, they can do the job. And almost put these in the same skirmishing line with the Beast Hunters and the Peacemaker and Dart, just to add to the general noise of camo markers on that sort of 8 inches outside of your deployment zone line. You're 4 inches away then from any objectives on the midline, but with careful positioning, you can, in theory, start using the hacking abilities if you have it on the Nagas. If you're going second and the enemy comes up, you can get them within 8 inches, so you can start hacking. So yeah, I love Nagas. They're very, very useful, and they're a great bonus that sort of ties in nicely with Shock Army. Fire teams, we have the standard, as many duos as you can get in there, 1 Harris, 1 Core. Then you have your standard regulars fire team with up to 5 regulars, Core or Harris. You can put an Orc in there, don't know why you would. Put Bag Marines in there, don't know why you would. The Machinist SAA is, don't know why you would. And a Beast Hunter FTO, I guess. Maybe. Not really. I kind of see, I'd probably run a regular fire team as Harris, probably with a paramedic, paramedic, Spitfire, and something else potentially. I think maybe even a hacker in there. I think that would be a legitimate choice. You can do the very professional doing it on the phone while I'm talking to you, because that's definitely the way forward. Yeah, probably as if you take the paramedic, the hacker, and the Spitfire regular, who I now can't find, that will set you back 45 points and 1.5 SWC. You've then got hacking missions covered, you've got paramedic missions covered, and you've got a big gun at the front for 45 points and 1.5 SWC. That's kind of tasty. The Acontecimento fire teams, that's where your Bag Marie Core comes in. So that's almost certainly where I'm going to start running the HMG up front, because we've kind of got the midfield covered with that regular Spitfire. But the HMG up front, paramedic and hacker again. And probably add in a machinist as well, because that's got the Bag Marine keyword, so that can be a 4 trooper fire team, but pure. So that pushes all of our Bag Maries up to being BS14. That's really, really tasty. I don't think I'd have bulleteers and stuff. I mean, maybe in very specific situations, maybe. But a nice tight Bag Marine fire team with a machinist in there makes a lot of sense. Does a lot of work, especially when backed up with that regular fire team. I mean, if we put together, while I'm talking to you, if we put together the hacker, the paramedic, and the heavy machine gun with a nice, let's do the combi rifle armed turret version of the machinist, so we can get that up the board. That Bag Marie, and machinist plus the 3 regulars, we're now at 149 points and 3.5 SWC. We have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 specialists in there, engineer, 2 hackers and 2 paramedics. And we still have 151 points and 2.5 SWC. So we have space for a Drago in there. We have space for Skylar in there. We have space for a lot of options in there. Definitely works. Definitely works. But, you know, I could maybe be convinced that taking a cheap Bag Marie, sticking that with or the hacker actually of the Bag Marie, sticking that with a bulleteer, machinist, and maybe a Knight Montesa for gunfighting goodness might be an option for a Harris in there, or Corsari in there. Maybe the bulleteer. Yeah, I don't know. There are some interesting flexible fire teams you can put in there, but I would probably stick with that kind of core focused task for those fire teams. Then we have Knight Montesa on foot duos. And then we have the mechanized versions, so we can duo the Tick Balangs together, because nothing is funnier than duoing Tick Balangs together. We can duo motorized Knights of Montesa, because nothing's again. And then the Drago can also be like mixed together with people. Taking a Drago and sticking that together with another unit that's a wild card, Sylar potentially, moving them around together, there's mileage in that. Then Agnes as well, that's also kind of useful. So then we have Lieutenant Stephen Rao, he's down the bottom there as a wild card. Lieutenant of choice, especially if you're taking a Bagmarine fire team. Take him with +1 order, stick him in the backfield, don't die. It's kind of his whole shtick. Agnes can fire team up. Sylar and the Charybdis can fire team up. But I kind of see maybe the Charybdis going with, I can maybe go with some regulars, because the flamethrower and the repeater, that does good mileage, then Sylar stays at the back. Maybe. Still get the special die if you run a Harris with 2 regulars and the Charybdis. Yeah, that would be quite interesting too. Who knows? In fact, actually, the Charybdis FTO running around with a Tick Balang, a repeater, so you've got hacker coverage with your tag. Tell me it's not genius. Tell me it's not genius. But yeah, I think this army, because it's with mobility and certain units that you're going to want to run and take together, I can see if I took Motorized Knights and Montesa, running them as a duo to start off with, it just makes sense. It's just a logical choice. A little bit more efficient, a little bit more speed down the board. Yeah, that works. I like that. That definitely works. So there you go. That is the core units of the Shock Army of Acontecimento and the fire teams and kind of how they sit together. Shock Army has always been and remains a very violent, direct action army. It's why I love it. It's just this clear kind of, I get in your face, I shoot you in the face, I keep doing it until you stop, and then I'm going to keep doing it anyway until there's nothing left. What has really happened with N5 is we've gained some flex around that. We've got the ability to build out that hacking network. We've got some interesting things with Silo, with the ability to take the Evo bot on her. I think that kind of ability to buff up combat jumping, definitely going to help the Akali Commandos. They're not really, with their standard Fizz 11, I think it was, they're not really going to be combat jumping anywhere anytime soon. But if you can have Silo who just goes, boom, right, everybody land there with the Evo hacking program, I can see that's got some mileage. There's some nice synergy for that. But overall, I have to say, the feel and the look and the capabilities of Shock Army remain the same. It is shock, it's shock and awe, it's violence, it's in your face. And I adore them for that. They remain the same. They just got a bit better. What I want to see is, what's going to be interesting to me, is getting them on the table and seeing whether that actually, with the way that other armies have evolved, whether they've evolved enough to be competitive, or whether that raw power is not going to convert into sort of wins and success like it used to. Who knows? As ever, thank you to members and Patreons for making this all possible. You guys are rocking my socks and I really appreciate the support. If you are not supporting the channel, please consider doing that, because there's going to be more of this series locked away, hidden and paywalled away like the monster that I am on Patreon and on YouTube. So if you can, please do support the channel. It lets me do more of this. It's less than a coffee a month and it makes all the difference to what I'm doing. If you can't do that, totally understand, no problems, no issue whatsoever, but do please like, share and subscribe to get the word of the Dice Gods out there. There's going to be more from me and the Shock Army of Acontecimento coming soon. We're going to be talking about lore. It's all getting done. So I'm going to talk about the unique lore and design and all the rest of it that I'm going to go for with this particular army. Have sort of put it out there on live streams. So if you are free on a Monday night from 8 PM GMT, 9 PM Central European time, do please consider joining me here on YouTube and or Twitch, because we spend a couple of hours talking all things wargaming, and I tend to run my mouth about all the fun stuff that's going on with Shock Army, etc. So you can get more there. But aside from that, thank you for spending this gargantuan amount of time with me. I hope it was interesting and entertaining. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know if you've got the bug for Shock Army off the back of this, whether you want to get involved with them too. I know I've certainly spread that bug to somebody else already. If I've given it to you, let me know. I'll see you all soon. Take care and goodbye.